convenient for you. Let's see what we have here. Hello, what's up, everyone? Thank you so much for joining. And greetings from Shanghai. Here is 11 p.m. And wish you good morning if you are in US or on that side of the planet. And I guess it's early afternoon in Europe and it's evening in Asia and Australia. So hopefully we can have quite a few of you here. So this is why I'm trying to get this a bit later session, even though I had a pretty long day. But I have a great topic here that I would like to talk about, and this is something that I think it can benefit to everybody out there, whoever is listening, no matter if you're a tennis player or not. I think you can relate to this question, and that is how to get in the flow or how to get in the zone. It's something that everybody kind of tends to accomplish, but sometimes it's very, very tough to force that. But there are some tricks you can do, or little things. I think first of all you have to have the understanding of the whole concept of the flow, right? I think it can help so much. So let's say, assuming that we talk about the tennis players here, but definitely it can also relate to all the athletes. And again, as I mentioned, it's also related to any other field, wherever we talk about the level of performance. Getting in the flow means you get in a state, where you're pretty much at your very best. You're performing at your very best without much effort. So it's almost like effortless, without using the conscious part of your brain. So it's more like from subconscious part, and everything is kind of almost based on instinct, right? So this is why everybody, we all want to get there pretty much all the time, and this is impossible for more reasons. So I'm going to talk about that, and I just want to say again, thank you so much for joining. We are on Instagram and on YouTube here. So I have these two screens. I cannot really follow now all the questions, but I will try to stick with the topic, and along the way I might read your questions, and please try to keep it related to the topic, because I think that's the best way. Then we can move along in the same direction, and we can keep the kind of train of thoughts. I hope we're gonna get more and more people, because again, I really, really believe this will help everybody. And why I chose this topic, it's because recently I've been doing some research. I've been reading articles on this topic. I got kind of interested in that, and I learned pretty useful and good things. And then even more important, I managed to apply those, and it really worked for me, and I just got so happy and so excited. And this is why I wanted to share it here with you guys. So as I mentioned, what is the flow? How you define being in the flow. As I said, it's the state where you also kind of forget about the time. You lose the sense of time. Everything is, you can say, either happens too fast or the time stops, whatever. You kind of enter this mode. But the most important thing is that you kind of lose any like major thinking process there, and everything is more like instinct based. So you're not using that conscious part of the mind. So there cannot be any interruptions for your performance, right? Because usually the thoughts are the things that are kind of preventing us from performing at the highest level. So where I see that this can help some of you, first of all, if you're a tennis player, you're competing, you're playing these matches, no matter what's the level, friendly matches, leagues, you're playing for a club, you're competing, you're playing for college, you're playing some doubles league, mixed doubles, you're competitive, and you want to, perform your best. And of course, you're a professional player. And but also on the other side, we can just talk about if you're a coach, if you're, instructor, if you're teaching different level of players or students. I know for the fact, and I know from my personal experience, the most like difficult situation, or like how to phrase it, is like almost like depressing situation, is if you are a coach or teacher or instructor, and then you get in that kind of period of the session where you totally hate it, like everything is you know it's not going in the way you want. There is very low energy, you're getting bored, the student is not interested. It's very tough to push them, to motivate them, the energy is low. So you kind of enter that, that part of the session of the training, that you just look at the watch, you hope the time goes fast. I'm sure everybody went through this, so if you're a coach or instructor. So this is why I found this so fascinating, because even in these situations, you can actually get in the flow as a coach or instructor. And you can take this can be related also to any kind of work you're doing outside of tennis, outside of sports, some kind of repetitive work, that can kind of put you in that zone where you're like bored as hell. It's like everything is like, you almost enter this the mood like apathy, and almost like depression, and like just the level of energy is super low. So I think this is the the topic that should be talked about more. And once you understand and then kind of realize how little effort it takes, to kind of get yourself out of that, if we're talking about the boredom and being like depressed or like no low energy, into that state where you're kind of getting into it, you're getting in the zone, and then everything is like so much more easier. And if we talk about the trainings, both for coach and the students, and then if you talk about the performance, it's much easier to get into that flow, and where you can perform at your best. And it's just, I think it's like so important. And yet, like, I didn't really talk to many people about it. Nobody really told me anything, like, didn't get much like advice on this topic. I was just curious one day, and I started like researching. And it's really amazing, because you can apply it to so many different things. I really hope there are more people now listening, but I don't see too many, like, hopefully you'll like stick around. Sorry, like, guys, I told you, like, if we can keep the questions aligned with the topic, it will be the best. I appreciate your questions. You can send me private message. I'm looking to answer, but here I'd like to stick to this topic. So I appreciate your questions. You can send me private message. I'm looking to answer, but here I'd like to stick to this topic. Anyways, the number one thing, let's say the first thing that you want to focus on, that you want to change. Let's say when there is a moment you want to kind of switch and try to get in that flow, right? Let's say the first thing is, obviously, you want to engage, right? You want to do everything you can to get into it, whatever is the task. If we're talking about the job, some repetitive work, washing dishes, but let's take here to tennis. And let's say you're on court, you can be either coach or a player, you're playing a match, you want to get into it. So how you do that? Like what I did was the topic. So the guys, for the guys who just joined, I talk about how to get in the flow, right? So I can, just 1 second, I'm gonna write it on Instagram here. How to get in the flow. All right. So this is the how to pin. Okay. All right. Thanks for that question from Vasilia. So you reminded me to give that the title. So I was saying, yeah. So you want to get engaged. You want to really get into it. So you gotta find a way. So for example, for me, the problem occurs when I'm having some training session with certain players or player. Maybe they're not in the mood that day, or in general they're not too interested. I really don't prefer to have this kind of lessons or sessions, but if that happens, you do everything you can, that's from your side, to get engaged, and to really kind of care about every little thing you do on the court, or at task at hand. Like, you try to simply get into it. I mean, it's a little bit tougher now to explain, but I'm trying to find some other example, because I'm just keep going back to the what you do on the tennis court. But if you are doing any repetitive work, as I mentioned, even washing dishes, right? I don't know, you find a way to you know do it the best possible way you can. Like, you try to make that plate like shining and all this. It's kind of makes sense, right, when I say it, but when you get to this point, you will kind of understand what I'm talking about. If we are talking about the performance, let's say you're playing the match, right? You're the court, because there will be some days, and I have this, happen quite a bit. I just don't feel I'm into the match. I'm maybe a little bit tired. The energy is not there. I'm not feeling my legs the best. Maybe also like feeling tight, so I cannot really totally get into it. So then you need to recognize that moment and literally force yourself. So this is a part of this. The number one thing you can do: literally get more active, get more dynamic, whatever it is. If you're sitting in the office doing some things, you try to get active. Whatever, you get up, go up and down the stairs, a couple of floors, get that blood flowing, like blood flow or whatever, adrenaline, get the heart pumping up. So the same thing on the court, or if you're in a match, you have to start with getting more dynamic, and moving more, doing something a bit more extreme, something that can kind of, definitely, if we talk about things on the court, right? You want to make sure that you're sweating, that you're starting to sweat. If you're on court, even as a coach, for me, it's also like works the same way. Like, if the lesson is like too easy, and it's that there is not good energy, the student is not interested, whatever. If I get into it by finding a way to move more myself, right? And I start sweating, and I will get more in it, and I will kind of generate some energy, and that energy can then be transferred, hopefully, on the player. So everything gets much better. Everything is it goes in a better direction. So once again, thanks for joining, talking about how to get in the flow, because I have the people like joining, and then some of them leave and then again join, so I have to kind of remind them. But I hope you're kind of following. Yeah, all this makes sense, because for me it makes sense so much, because I kind of lived those moments a lot before, but now I'm more aware of them, and it really makes sense. So, but I'm not sure if I'm like sending the message across. I really care about this. I want at least some of you to kind of get the idea. What if you're in the zone and your opponent starts lobbing and slowing down the pace by a lot? Okay, so that's different thing. That's like when you have different variables. The circumstances, the conditions are changing. That's different. But the number one thing is, by the way, like it's a good question. Like, so the question is, what if you get in the zone and then the opponent starts lobbing and slowing down the pace? So that's the good thing. If you're in the zone, right? If you get totally in the zone, you don't have to worry about anything. What's like if it changes, because you will be able to adjust. like you will be in that state where the conscious part of the mind is like, it's really not working. You will not even think. By instincts, you will know like what you need to do, how you're gonna adapt to that situation, So the first thing is, as I said, getting engaged, trying to get into it. And you can do that by getting more dynamic and starting to move more, being more aggressive with your footwork. And again, if it's any other task, you do it in a more extreme way. All right. So I think that was maybe a bit more clear. I hope. Then the second thing that also kind of worked for me, obviously getting in the flow, it's gonna help if you are able to get present in the very moment, right? If you can literally stop worrying or thinking about whatever happened or whatever is coming, you need to get literally present in that very moment. This is kind of obvious, and I'm sure you heard this a lot, be present in the moment. But the thing is how you do that. So you want to basically observe or become aware of every little thing or little detail that you can possibly see or feel or whatever, taste, smell, whatever around that very moment, right? So the simple thing on the court, like when you take the balls, like before serving, you like observing each ball, or like you're doing those routines, tapping the ball, changing, fixing the strings on the racket, like the very little details, and you become 100% aware and like know exactly what's happening, like, but you just focus on those details. If we are talking about the coaching, so this is something that I was able to apply. This, I get obsessed with the details, for example, of whatever the exercise I'm doing and the player. I look into like extreme details so I can really get into it. So it's kind of, it ties back to the first part where you need to get engaged. If I look, let's say we're working on the forehand, there's some exercise there, I try to get obsessed, with every single thing. So I also slow down. I take the camera, make the video slow motion, then we kind of sit down, watch every detail there, literally try to become a perfectionist at that moment. So maybe for the match, I don't know how you can like apply that, but as I said, like you look for some details just to kind of get into it, get present. I think that's going to help a lot to 100% get into that state, in the zone, right? I don't know if everybody, if you're following, if this makes sense. But so that can be number two. I kind of try to make it like there's some patterns you can do. There are some things that if you go through each, you can have a greater chance to get in the flow. So number one, get engaged, get into it. Whatever you can find a way for that. One of the ways that worked for me is like get more dynamic, more aggressive with your movement. Start using your feet, or if it's any other activity, you just get dynamic, get that blood flow and the heart rate up, start sweating. That's going to help when you get in. The second thing, observe the details, get obsessed with them, and get immersed, like become a perfectionist for those little things. And the third part, actually, this maybe I should have said in the beginning, it's very important to understand the concept of actually when does the flow occur, like what kind of activity is the easiest to put in the flow. So there was like a lot of research, and that the statistics, it says like that majority of activities that we have are not the ones that are putting in the flow. Why? Because they're either too easy, the task is too easy, right? It doesn't require too much of a skill, and the level of like intensity of attention and focus, it's too easy. So you kind of go into autopilot and everything becomes too easy. Like you almost get bored. Think about if you have like a graph, right? The graph is here, so you're kind of at the bottom there. And the other set of activities that usually happen is like maybe you get too challenged. The task requires too much like the higher skill maybe than you have at that moment, and it's too intense. You know, you become too nervous. This what happens for the competitions. But this again, it's comes from inside. But again, if you're playing against very good opponents, you need more skills than you have, and then it's tough to get in the flow. When you're like over challenged. So the ideal activity is somewhere in between, where you need to have your skills need to be kind of challenged. Not too much, then it's going to be tough. So your skills need to be challenged, and the focus, the intensity of that, it's also on a challenging level. So overall, you have to be challenged, you know in order to get in the flow. So my point here is, for that third part, what you can do, if you're a coach, if you're having this different like students, if you're an instructor, and you get that feeling of boredom or apathy and almost depression, it's like the energy is so low, you try to challenge yourself a bit more. It's a little bit tied again to the, like, getting into it, being more physical, but you can challenge in a different way. Like, give yourself a task, give a student a task, and try to reach that task, try to accomplish it. Exactly same goes for the matches, right? If you're playing a match and you find yourself feeling like not too interested, not too, like, not into it, obviously you're not in the zone. uh, that means you're not challenging yourself enough, or you're not challenged enough. It might be a match, like, too easy, match is too easy, you're getting bored. It's like, but why not get in the zone? So you can challenge yourself. Okay, I have to win every point, with a forehand, or I have to come to the net every time when they hit a short ball in the service box. I have to come to the net. In that way you're gonna get into it, you're gonna engage. I think it's super interesting if you start thinking in this way. For example, let's be a bit more realistic. What is the more likely event to happen? That is, like, you are playing a match, and it's, let's say it's an important match, you have a good opponent, you have a chance to win, but you have to play your very best, right? So how can you get in the flow? I think this is the most common situation. Or you even play against a weaker opponent, but it's an important match, and you get a bit tight. How to get in the zone if you're feeling a bit tight, and all this. If you just follow these three things, I think you will be able to do it. So number one, try to engage by getting more dynamic. That can mean, like, just run every point, like, hit every ball back and start running like David Ferrer, or start running like whoever is, like insane, like every point. And or start running to the net, get engaged physically. Then the second thing is, like, get obsessed with details and try to be a perfectionist. It's kind of tied to the third one, where you want to challenge yourself. So try to do something very specific, and commit to that idea, commit to that plan. um, so those are the three things that, in my mind, it can really help. And I see you're getting a lot of comments now on YouTube. Thank you so much. I didn't read so far any. I just want to finish my, like, these thoughts that I have. And the last thing I would like to share is, like, what something that I was actually doing lately, to help me get engaged. It's definitely partially all of these things, right? And again, it's a little bit different scenarios when you're on the court as a coach. So you try to get in the zone there as a coach. Uh, Definitely for me, the biggest thing that helped is like I literally find the way to get engaged, and that can kind of cover any of these things. That the key is to get engaged no matter what, even if you don't feel for it. You gotta find a way because everything is gonna be so much better. You know, you're gonna feel better after that, and definitely your players, which is more important, you're gonna transfer some of that energy. They're gonna be much more effective training. You know. Uh, but you definitely want to escape that feeling where you're just bored and just going through the motions. It's the worst. You're looking at the clock, the worst. Like whatever, you find a way to forget about the time. That's the goal, right? So again, for me, what was working the best is like trying to challenge myself, get moving, and really getting obsessed with details, trying to help in the best possible way, like literally the best, like my life depends on it. I literally get so extreme that I you know I almost don't even recognize myself in certain like moments. Whatever, I can raise my voice, I can like do something crazy, but the key is to kind of get into it. And doing some extreme things can also happen. The worst is like just having the monotone, like also the way you talk and everything, just repetitive, something like this. For the matches, I wanted to share that another thing that really helped me is like literally just trying to focus on the breathing. I was doing that a lot, especially in the changeovers. When I'm like sitting in the bench and having some drink, I always commit to the very specific breathing rhythm, which is 4 seconds, a very strong inhale, and then 6 seconds long exhale, and then kind of repeat that process during the changeovers. It kind of helps me to, just focus on that very simple thing, not having too many thoughts around, and definitely, calms me down, and the whole body, everything like functions much better. So I think that was very helpful. And then during the games or between the points, yeah, just trying to stay present in the moment. Again, always having some little routines, taking the towel, and the one thing that I did recently was, for the serving, I would take as much time as I needed until I'm almost like having the feeling that it's gonna be a good serve. Like I'm tapping the ball, and I'm gonna wait until I have that feeling, and also sometimes can visualize the serve and just go for it. Not really being shy from it, but definitely the part of the whole process of getting in the flow is also like having intensity of the focus. Yet again, being able to stay more cool and relaxed, calm, right? So there's like kind of a balance between sharp focus, but also some relaxation between. So this is the best way I can describe it. So I hope that gave you some idea, guys. I think I'll just have to plug in this computer, a laptop. Maybe the battery will slowly run out because I was using this very laptop today for analyzing the video, the recent match I played. So thank you so much for your patience. I will go quickly to some of the questions here on YouTube. So I hope you guys are still there, the ones who ask me questions, and Instagram. Appreciate everybody there. Hope you learned something here. Let's see. ¿Cómo está? Salam from Turkey. Okay, we got this question with Lobs. Let me know when you're planning to visit. Okay, Nick wants to play. Definitely when I'm in London, that will be great. Marty, how do you keep in the zone once you are there? Great question. And yeah, this is. I also read about this, and I didn't really have to think too much about it. For me, it's when I'm there and I just keep doing the things that I was talking about. You know, I'm gonna pretty much stay there, literally. Obviously, you cannot have so much energy to keep going like this. You really need a good energy to be engaged and always being dynamic and active and kind of proactive and keep challenging yourself. Eventually, you will need a little break from that, or maybe just simply like your your mind will kind of go in different place. But I think just recognizing that you are in the zone, you just have to let it go and like just follow it. Just keep that momentum. Sometimes we are not in control of that. How we can stay longer, but you just keep doing the things. Shall we play in Sri Lanka? Okay. Um, actually, living. Okay, so Nick and Jack are arranging some hit here. How long does it last to be in the zone normally? Benjamin. Another good question. It really depends. I mean, I've had matches where once you get in it, probably it cannot happen from the first point. Usually, those first couple of points can feel weird. I'm sure like you start serving and then it's like it's just weird. I'm starting the match. It's the first point, second point. Once the match starts, second game already, you can start feeling it, and I feel you can stay in the zone pretty much the whole match. Um, Obviously, you're gonna have a little bit like ups and downs. You cannot play every shot the best every game. You're gonna have some games with a little bit lack of focus, but the zone will mean that you're engaged. You're engaged. You're in it. You're dynamic. I felt it every single match I played in this tournament because I know like I would catch myself in certain moment and like start like just feeling like sensing the breathing I have. It was like so intense, and then I feel like the whole body is like on fire, and I could feel like you know. For me, this is also a sign that you're in the zone, like where you're not even aware, what's happening around, and also like you're not so much aware of your body, what's happening, and then I just realized it's on fire, like everything. I hot, obviously, like totally wet, but I'm like how to call it, like radiating the heat. I feel like it's like burning. It's all because of that intensity and all this like happening. It's just amazing feeling. So Adam, pozdrav, upravo idem na tenis kanal, vidim ti. Pozdrav, nadam se da će biti dobra partija ili trening, šta god da je, match. Nail. Just to comment on how increased movement actually helps you get in the zone. Me and my mixed doubles partner lost the first set and now break in the second set. Okay. Okay, so we have a short story here. I think Neil will continue. Yeah, I mean yeah. So here is we tried your 4 second inhale and 6 second exhale as well as more rapidly to increase our heart rate, and we managed to win the second set in a entire way. No way, Neil. Wait. Are you talking about this just happened? This is great, guys. I cannot believe. So you're saying you were playing the match, and you also watched this live during the changeover, or I need to. This is so cool. I'm gonna take like a screenshot. Okay. Nick, if you lose your cool and patience when some shots don't work, what do you think is the best way to relax yourself and be able to focus? Nick, like that question is that just literally kind of hit somewhere. Like, I know exactly what you mean, and it's a amazing question. Obviously, you know what we're talking about here. You understand. the topic very well, and it fits greatly. Like, I know those are the moments. So the question is, I'm sure everybody had this moment. You're playing, and then it can be, let's say it's a tough match, and every point is important, and you make one error, make the second error, and then you suddenly almost like start, you feel that like slight panic, almost panic, and very uncomfortable feeling, like, oh man, like, is it happening? Like, I'm like totally, I'm gonna blow it now. It's like I'm just like losing the whatever, the feel and like the courage. I'm losing the confidence. Like, am I just not good enough? Like, and I think you all know this. Like, and it can happen after one or two shots. Maybe you didn't like, approach the ball well, or like your footwork or something, the swing, you were late, the split step, you didn't read the ball well, whatever. The choice was wrong. Something very small, and we all sometimes tend to over exaggerate, like exaggerate that moment and over criticize ourselves, and then you feel like, man, it's like it's that's so bad. Like, I'm gonna lose the momentum now, and who knows what happens in a match. So that's a great question, and it's very simple, very simple. What you can do at that moment? Literally, take a step back, like almost kind of like, how do you say? Um, try to literally almost exit your body or whatever, or see everything from a different view, like from outside of the core, whatever, and see it and look at it as this means nothing. It's like such a small thing, It's just like one mistake, but the overall feel for the match is totally different, right? And you just take a step back and say, this is nothing. It's just one mistake, one shot. It should not affect anything, literally. And it's normal. Everybody is making the mistakes. So you kind of take a step back and slow down a bit, do those breathing, do a couple of breaths, and then just try to get totally on the positive side, and not just positive, but also on the attack side, because usually when you have these moments where you like, you know, miss, and then you start being a little bit more tight, and then you kind of want to go on the defense, like the ball gets short, the ball goes in the net, and then your only goal is kind of just to hit it over the net, and that's not where you want to go. You want to kind of slow down, stop, and then just regain that positive attitude, and almost like gain, like find the courage somewhere, find it in a way that that you trained so much and you're prepared and whatever, and you can play great shots, and then you just go for it. Like, you literally go on the attack. Even if you miss it, it's so much better to go for the attack after those mistakes. I'm not talking about stupid attack, like blasting the return as hard as you can. Like, the shot that kind of makes sense, you just go for it. And even if you miss, it's gonna feel much better than if you go for the safe shot and you miss, or the opponent takes it and like smashes the winner. So I hope that makes sense. But that was an amazing question. I really appreciate that, Nick. Amazing question. So Ian asked, how much pressure do you feel during the most important points? Insane amount of pressure, Ian. It's like I said, like, it becomes like almost uncomfortable. But then by time it's like it becomes normal. You kind of get used to it. Like, I had these matches, and then there was so many games. There was like deuce advantage, deuce like break point down, deuce, and every time, like, let's say I'm serving, obviously it's a huge thing if you lose the serve, but every time you just like slow down, and then just take it as it is, that very point, just focus on that one serve, and then it's like second serve, whatever, and then you get used to it. And before, I had sort of issues, like on the big points. I'm kind of I'm not gonna say not confident. I want I usually go for those big serves, but I'm kind of worried if I miss the first serve. Like first serve is like almost not effective. Like if I have a good day, like on the big points, I'm gonna make the like first serves. But sometimes you just not, it's not your day. You're not gonna make. But then I'm worried and almost like thinking like if I miss the first serve, then I have to go for second serve. That's gonna be a tough one. That was before, but now what was happening is like you know I don't recall making like many double faults on the big points. Maybe one I remember, it was on a deuce on my serve, just one, and that ball hit the very top of the net. Like that sound, and it will be a great serve. It was like body serve. But after I recovered with an ace. I'm just saying that these things you can work on them and you can improve. That's amazing. Before I always thought, man, I like training so hard, but I know like if the match gets like close and then all this like tight moments, it's very tough for me to go through that and play at the best level. Like it's usually I just kind of don't want to lose. But by having so much time, like and working on these things and reading and trying to apply in certain situations and going through more and more, you're actually getting better. So, and I was told, from the people who watched, that it was a different level than before. I was so happy. So because in the end you can improve this, even like the mental side of the game. It's like the most important, right? So I think that's fascinating. How do you visualize your strategy for a big point? Look, great question. It all depends, what kind of match, what kind of game you're playing, what's your style. For me, it's usually very simple. I just let everything happen, and just following the instinct. Sometimes I just visualize the serve, like where it's gonna go, but otherwise, or maybe sometimes when I'm returning, I kind of decide, okay, I'm gonna try this with this return. I'm just gonna go for it. If I make it, then it feels amazing. If I don't, it's fine. I made a decision. I committed to that decision, and that was right at that moment. I'm not gonna kind of regret. It is what it is. This is also advice I got from one of my friends, and now he's like ranked 150. Danilo Petrovic, Dacha. I don't know if he will watch this, but we had one very nice conversation at the airport for a few hours actually. So he told me great things. So I asked him also how do you handle those, like 5-all in the third set tiebreaker and you're playing the point. How do you approach those points, and how do you not think about the points that you had a chance but you didn't use. And this is what he told me. You just make a decision before the point, like if you can. For example, if you're returning, you can decide only like I'm gonna try to just make the return and then just look for chances, like just get every ball back, which is fine. It's totally fine. You can decide to go on a defense, but get a point. Or you can decide, if it even on the first serve, I'm gonna go for a bit more risky return, take my chances. Or even on the second serve, I'm just gonna go for a big shot. And definitely on the serve, I'm gonna go big serve wide. I'm gonna go for kicker, maybe go to the net. The point was you just make the decision and you commit to it. And then after that, no matter what's the outcome, you're not gonna regret it. You should not regret it, because at that moment you made the decision and that's it. There's nothing to, or like to be harsh on yourself or criticize yourself. I think that was a very, very great advice. Great point. Thanks for videos against top players. You can see the tour inside. You're welcome. The paradox of the flow state, getting in the zone, and the not trying, replacing the trying, since you must try, but not in that sense. There's a qualitative change in your subjective experience. Well put. As activity overrides the conscious self and trying to turn into engaging. Jack, that's a very deep, man. Thanks a lot. But definitely makes sense. And it's very good that you mentioned that phrase, not trying, because obviously, you're there, you have to try, but not trying, it's only because, yeah, your conscious mind is not like the processor, right? It's not working. Everything happens by instinct. Because it's by instinct, there is nothing that you are forcing, so you're not trying, like you're not trying hard anything, right? So this why it's a little bit tricky, getting in the flow when you want, where it should kind of occur more naturally. But I said, like, if you kind of approach in that way that I explained, those couple of things, if you just do those things, find some way for yourself, you have a much higher chance to achieve the state of flow. And you said it very well, the trying turns into engaging. That's great. That's very well put, trying something. And the first thing that I said, you want to engage, you want to get into it. And maybe sometimes, like, in the beginning, you might have to, you almost like force that engaging. But once you're there, then it just, it's a momentum. It's a creative momentum, and then you keep going. So, Nick, thanks for the amazing response. I agree. Taking a step back and clearing my mind is something I need to work on, but I will make sure to use advice with breathing and try to focus better. Yeah, and again, as I said, like, not being too, critical or harsh on yourself, because it's totally normal. Accepting, accepting the mistakes and having that non-judgmental attitude, it kind of goes to this mindfulness, the concept of mindfulness. And another great way to see it is, like, you imagine you're a chair umpire, right? So if you're a chair umpire, you're watching a match, you watch yourself, right? This is what I was kind of saying. You take a step back. I said, like, you look it from a side, but you can also be a chair umpire for like 10 seconds. And then you see, okay, I hit that ball, it was out, it's out, it's like love 15, whatever. But on the same at the same time, you hit a winner, it's a winner. You almost kind of detach the emotion. This is tough, but if you manage to do that, it's going to be so much better, because you will not get caught up in those ups and downs emotions. You're going to be more into just flow and playing and engaging without really thinking too much what's the outcome. If it's out or in, winner or unforced error, this is like outcome. You need to be engaged in the process. This is the goal, the key. Thanks so much. So the questions like this really helps. It's like having the conversation. I hope like someday in future I can manage to literally invite some of you, and so we can have like a split screen, because this is where a lot of great quality like questions and topics kind of get covered, and we can come up with some great like tactics and strategy like that can really be useful for everybody. So that's amazing, really. Look, thanks for response. Do you customize your racket? I didn't do it so far. I want to do it eventually. I want to change the swing weight. What to pack in the tennis bag? Adrian, it's like your first time playing. Definitely rackets, tennis shoes, some clothes, towel is good. Get some snacks, some energy drinks. Okay, this is a better question. How to develop routines? Yeah, you can simply observe like some of the pros, like what they're having. I mean, I think that's like one of the ways, and maybe simply try different ones that you see they're doing. I don't like recommend doing like rough on adults routines. That's like a bit crazy, but who knows? Maybe it can work for you. So you can see what others are doing and maybe add some of your own thing. Uh, I've seen Christian, like one of my players, and it looked like he tried to copy, I don't know who is doing. I think Rafa is doing that. He's not stepping on any lines on the court between the points. So you can notice when he's walking on the court, he's like he tries to skip every line. He's never gonna step on the line. Of course, in the point, I mean, he cannot do it during the point, but so he's kind of skipping lines. But what Christian is doing, he's like when he's going like let's say after changeover, right? So he's going to his side. He's gonna go literally straight on the line, or like following the line. So this is the singles line, and then go baseline. So he walks like the line is the only path he can go, and then on the baseline, and then he goes back, leaves the towel. That looks funny. I don't know, or he just customized that habit of walk on the court. So whatever it can be, you can kind of experiment. Definitely using the towel, bouncing the ball a certain amount of times, whatever it is, at the bench, having something to look at the paper, like write the notes. I've seen some top players, they look at the paper, So many things. Your opinion on the underarm serve, Ben? I think it definitely makes it more fun, obviously for the audience if there is some. Otherwise, it's allowed, there is no rules, against it. Sometimes it can really feel and seem like underestimating, disrespecting opponent, but it's all like personal judgment. It's all subjective. Don't have too like much strong opinion of that. I'm fine if somebody does it. I will make sure to win a point. That's all. Like I will make sure to win a point because that's a great chance. I think it's like I was surprised, when Nick Kyrgios did it with Rafa Nadal. Obviously, first time it was a surprise, but then after, I mean, Rafa should be like super prepared for that. And I think on that level, like you should always win that point. And if you have a serve like Kyrgios, it's a little bit stupid, like do this underarm instead of serving like ace, hitting that like 230 kilometers per hour ace. But it's again subjective. Adrian, what are your routines? Example of some notes to have for changeovers. The routines, Adrian, like I said before, I don't know if you were like watching at the changeovers. I try to do the breathing. I count to 4, like 4 seconds inhale, 6 seconds exhale, and that kind of helps me to just focus on the breath. Don't have any other thoughts. Very simple. And then do all this, like have a drink if I have some like snack, and just kind of cool down, like simply cool down. And between the points, not always, but if I feel I need a little bit longer break, I will grab a towel. Or if I lost some big point or the next point is big, I'm gonna take a bit longer break. And nothing to think too much about. Just have a break, a little bit, again, step back and focus on that breathing, and have the positive mindset, like no judgment. Try to have no judgment. I can say that's also one of the routines. Notes for the changeovers. I think I've seen, I don't know who had it. Maybe it was like even Andy Murray. I think it was Andy Murray. Somebody posted this. I don't know when I saw it. The notes were very basic, but it can always help. Like literally move your feet, like something, because we often forget about those basics, and those basics can sometimes make a huge difference. Literally, when let's say you're serving, or whatever is the situation, it's a big point, right? And you're feeling a bit tight. Sometimes you cannot really control that, you can get these nervous feelings. But no matter how nervous you get and tight, you can always control how you move, right? Even though sometimes you feel like your feet are frozen, legs are frozen, you can still move. And this is another way, like you can kind of get back, engage there. So I think that's a good note. Like, move your feet. Get going. Adjust for every step, for every shot. You know, stay positive. Um, Move your opponent. Play smart. Have big targets. Don't rush. Stay cool. Have fun. Play your favorite game. For me that can also help. Sometimes you get a bit nervous and all this, and then you think, come on, why am I here? I'm here to because I love to play. I love to enjoy the sport. So why would I just go to some like uncomfortable point where I'm gonna try to defend and just to win a point, and then most likely lose it? No, I'm gonna go on the attack, and I'm gonna have fun. If I lose the point, so what? It's just a point. I think those are the things like you can write down. I think that can be useful. Oh, we have one question on Instagram from Coach Tactic, whatever. What's the breathing tempo to stay in the flow at the times? I was talking about that. It's I don't think there's like a rule. As long as you can keep the same ratio of inhale to exhale, and then you repeat that, whatever that is for you. It can be 5 seconds, 5 seconds. It can be 4 and 6. It can be 3 and 5. Whatever. The goal is to keep the same ratio, so you can count those seconds. I used to I used to use the underarm serve, Ben, all the time, and loved it doing it. But then somebody used it against me, and I was annoyed at them, so I stopped. Have you ever used it underarm serve? Uh, Trying to think. I don't think I used it in official match. Like for fun, I did maybe in some like friendly match or in the training. I don't think in official match, but I use the trick serve. It's like kind of on the outside of the strings. So I'm gonna have to wrap up quickly, guys. It's almost midnight, and really have to sleep. Yeah, it was a tough day. We'll try to read quickly these questions. Olivier, what made you advance the most in tennis? Oh my God, so good. Was there any revelation moment in your tennis life? Unfortunately, I didn't reach yet that big moment. You know, I mean, in order to get there, you really have to give yourself a lot of time, and you have to really play a lot. I focused on other things as well. I didn't only play tournaments. I studied. I got 2 degrees. I have a bachelor and master degree. So, but for my level, where I'm at now, uh, I think actually now I'm close to the highest point. I think kind of like the more mature you are and the more you're getting into that mental side, I think that's where the revelation happens. And then when you realize you belong to the higher level, then everything can happen. You become dangerous. It's that confidence. What are some good footwork drills you can do or good drills? Um, Okay, just 1 second. So the Instagram now, it's telling me only 30 seconds left. So I want to thank everybody for joining there, because I think it's like 1 hour, it's limit there for Instagram. So appreciate, guys, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm gonna have to wrap up this one. And players often focus on winning tournaments and rankings too much and judge themselves on this. I feel they need to focus more on the process, forming good habits. Exactly. Process over results, always, every day. All right. So I'm gonna have to close. All right. That's already finished. Instagram finished. So we are still here. I will try to read those questions. I try to answer quickly, but it's tough. So good footwork drills that you do, or good drills that you've seen some other pros do. There's so many. There's so many. Look, um, I would say you need to do a lot of those like lateral movements where you focus on that first explosive step. This is something I need to work more, and this is good to use the resistance bands. that kind of give you resistance, and then you're getting better with that first step, kind of pushing off that foot. And the spider or the star drill, you have the balls in 5 corners. You start from the baseline. There's 5 balls, and you have to collect them, in a sharp movement. Those like short sprints on the court, definitely like agility, where you need speed, quickness, agility, change of directions, something like this. I like to use outcome goals, performance goals, and process goals with my players. Find helps them mentally on the court. Thoughts on this? That's interesting. I need to a little bit think about it. But I like any kind of system that you just described. It's definitely good when you make the players keep the track of something. Set a certain goal, and then keep keep the track of it, the progress. I think it can only be good. So you mentioned outcome goals, performance goals, and process goals. Okay, even though the outcome goals maybe might not be my favorite, but definitely performance goals and process goals sound good, because you need to just focus on the process. And performance, yeah, maybe you can kind of talk about what was the level of the performance itself, and then the outcome. Yeah, that sounds good. I have a lot of trouble to stay calm on the court. Everything distracts me. I'll try to breathe, but doesn't seem to work. Tips to stay calm and really need it. Love it, channel. Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, distracting. Yeah, breathing is one thing. If it's not working, you try to find a way how to stay present in the moment, how to literally forget about everything else, how to get engaged there. Like focus on that very thing that you're doing, that very moment. You're walking towards the due side to receive the serve. Like focus on how you're walking, like what are your steps, whatever. Where is your position on the court, how you're holding the racket, literally every single thing, like little details that you're doing. Focus on that, and just be present. I think that's very simple. Players tend to focus on much on the outcome goals, like winning tournaments. I feel it's better to focus on process goals, working on good habits. Exactly, that's exactly what I said. I have a lot of trouble to stay calm and go, okay, this is already answered. Keep posting some great content. Thanks so much, Adrian. And the last question for the time, the mental game is so underworked because hardest and least fun problem to deal with. It's more frustrating than the opponent. It's more frustrating than the opponent. Exactly. It's always battle with yourself. And this is where you got to work on that. So you can be your own ally, like you help yourself, not be your own opponent. All right, thanks guys so much. I will wrap up this video. Really appreciate it. I hope it was helpful. For me, it was so fun, and I also learned something from this, so I want to thank you all so much. It's always been a pleasure, even though it's midnight and I'm gonna have a little bit weaker sleep, but I don't mind. It was great. Once again, appreciate. I will try to finish the next video, and that is the analysis of the semifinals that I played a few days ago against the world top 100 ITF player, Tony. Currently ranked 130, but he was 96 in the world, and we played some great points. I mean, he's an amazing player, so fast, so quick. I only realized that today when I watched the video. So hopefully that will be on live maybe in a day or two. All right, until then, have a great day, have some great trainings, try to apply some of these principles and tactics we talked about. And if so, let me know how it goes. That would be amazing. And once again, take care. Have a great day.